Thank you very much. And yeah, pleasure to be here chatting with you all today. So I think for me, where it all started was with my son. And he was born 7 years ago. And it was really around that time we had a lot more media coverage around climate and biodiversity and mainly climate. And yeah, just really thinking about future chat with him, where he would say to me, maybe when he was a teenager, what did you do? Your generation knew about the sort of the challenges and the severity of the situation. And so for me, like I wanted to move my career into climate and nature, really thinking about that conversation and wanting to make a difference and have a tangible impact with everything happening. But I think what we talk about a lot is the climate crisis. And only really in the last couple of years, people have become more aware of also the biodiversity crisis. And of course, they're like interlinked, but they're both really important because if we fix climate and not biodiversity, then we're still in a really tricky spot. I think the good news is nature-based solutions. These are different projects around the world. They can be the usual tree planting and tree protection, but they can include like grasslands and peatlands, and then ocean-based projects like mangroves and kelp seaweed, regenerative farming. But these are all ways of tackling both climate and also biodiversity. In fact, nature-based solutions can contribute a third of the carbon mitigation for climate, but 100% of the biodiversity. So that's where we've focused with Earthly. And the thing I also love about nature-based solutions is they tackle climate and biodiversity, but they have great social and people support. And it's often those communities at the front line of climate change who are most supported. So it's like a triple win with them. So that's why we've really focused on channeling money to them, because there's a big funding gap. It's actually $700 billion a year if we need to hit our climate goals. So at Earthly, we're laser focused on like how can we bridge that gap, and I'll talk a bit more about what we're doing. The other big challenge is there are some good projects out there, and there's some not so good projects. So I think we've probably all seen in the media there's been a lot of profiling of scandals, and so at a time when we've got this big finance gap, we need to be getting money to projects. Companies are scared of being caught up in a scandal related to lower quality projects. So what we do at Earth is we screen and we provide access to high integrity data rich projects that go beyond carbon to look at biodiversity and social impacts with a differentiated, engaging story to bring to life the impact that's happening within these projects. And we believe that a combination of those two things is going to really help us accelerate funding to nature, close that funding gap, and ultimately meet our mission of protecting and restoring at least 1% of the planet by 2030. Really proud of the customers that we're working with around the world and the backers that we have. And I think the one thing just to touch on is that the big elephant in the room has been around offsetting. And I think the reality is we see carbon credits as just it's a way to get money to projects. And I think they have to be used in the right way. They can't obviously just be a band-aid if a company doesn't actually focus on its footprint and reduction. So one of the things that we really push with all clients is to have, on the one hand, a really good decarbonization, a carbon reduction strategy where we're looking at how they can be more efficient and reduce their impact on the world. And on the other hand, ways to channel money to nature through carbon credits and other ways that I'll touch on in a second. And the combination of those two things is really the package that we need to tackle the climate and biodiversity crisis. How do we access the best projects? Because that's really, it sits at the heart of Earthly, is we help our kind of customers de-risk their nature investments by finding the very best nature-based projects. So we're very lucky we have a great team of scientific advisors who are all like academics in the nature-based space. And they've helped us to build an assessment, which I'll go into in a little bit. But leaning on their expertise has been really invaluable for us. We also have a big data angle to what we do. So we're ingesting lots of different data, whether it's public data from projects, whether it's private data, whether it's things like satellite, geospatial data. And the way that we see it, the more information that we can gather, the higher our kind of confidence can be, and the more detailed we can run our assessment. And so what we do is the assessment essentially gives a score to different nature-based projects. It's really flexible. It can screen different ecosystems. So it's not just like a forest assessment. We can also screen different projects linked to different platforms. So you get different registries like Gold Standard or Vera. And so it's completely agnostic. So we can basically build these portfolios of different projects for our customers with different types of projects and different types of registries. But at the heart of it is there's three kind of key pillars. There's a carbon part, there's a biodiversity part, and a people part. So you can see the kind of the breakdown of the three scores there. What's really interesting is this is a spider diagram. So we actually look at 106 quality indicators when we're screening nature-based projects, a third in carbon, third in biodiversity, a third in people. But what this means is we get a really good understanding of the strengths of different projects. And worth mentioning that, for a project to pass our assessment, all of those 106 quality indicators have to meet a minimum standard. And I think to date, we've screened 400 projects and only 8% have met our minimum standards. So I think that really shows some of the challenges that we have in the market. But through this process of like really detailed analysis, we can understand, so like this project, for example, has really strong health. So the community is connected to it, get great health support. So when we're working with, say, a health-focused company, we can not only find the projects that meet our minimum standards and kind of de-risk their nature investments, but we can find projects that are aligned with their values. So in this example, we can then pull out data like the people receiving healthcare linked to their investment in the projects, the number of injections delivered. And I think that just makes it so much more authentic when they can actually talk about the impact that they're having on the ground linked to the projects that they're supporting. Without going into like too much detail, so you can see the scoring. We basically look at, for each of the quality indicators, we look at like confidence in the evidence that we can get, and then the maturity, and we have a combination of those two things to get to our different scores. And then we have some different weighting. So we think some things are more important than others. And so in this chart, you can see obviously like human rights, for example, gets a really high weighting because it's so important. And then the other side to what we're doing is, as I touched on earlier, is talking about, is really helping people understand the good that's happening with the projects that they support. And when you talk about planting 1 million trees, okay, it sounds great, but actually it's really hard for you and I to understand what that looks like and the good that's connected to that. And so there's a great opportunity to really showcase and explain the storytelling around these nature investments. So that's what we specialize in doing, helping our customers talk about the good that they've had in a compliant way linked to the projects that they've supported. Because another challenge that business has is there's lots of legislation happening around what you can and can't say, which I think is great because we need to move away from greenwashing, and people can only make claims about projects if they've got the evidence to back up those claims and it's fair. So that's a part of our platform, is basically helping companies navigate and talk about things in the right way, in a fair way, in an accurate way. So we have a customer hub, which has a lot of that training resources. We have visualization tools like an island you can see here, which is a kind of visual representation of the projects that you support. And then we have an impact dashboard, which is public, which you can tally those impact metrics and you can show those impact metrics that you care about. So like if you're a healthcare company, you can show the injections that are being delivered, for example, as well as the carbon being removed. And so I guess like in summary, what we do is we're building these bespoke portfolios of different nature-based projects for our customers. Sometimes they can be linked to like locations. So they might want to support a project near where they have offices, or near where they have a manufacturing facility, or near where they have customers. Sometimes there's like an ecosystem connection. So it might be a food manufacturer wants to support a regenerative farm project because of that link there. And then the other time it's a co-benefits, it's a values link. So go back to that health example, a healthcare company wanting to support projects that have over-indexed like outcomes for community health that they're connected to. And there's different kind of like vehicles to get the money to the projects. By far and away, the most popular is through a carbon credit. And a lot of our customers have these net zero commitments where they've said by 2030, they're going to be reducing their carbon by this amount. They'll still have a residual remaining footprint that they need to offset. So we can help them with that for obviously high integrity projects that we're screening with our assessment. We just launched the voluntary biodiversity credits, which I've got a couple of slides on in a second, which is focused on the UK and biodiversity net gain on the UK, which is really interesting. We have some customers that they don't necessarily need a credit. They just want to support innovation. So in this case, stuff like a kelp seaweed project where there's no credits yet, but doing really important stuff. So we can be the conduit and we can enable funds to flow to these innovators that are doing really cool things, but they're quite early stage. And then we have long-term origination. So this is where a company might come to us and say, we need 1 million credits over the next decade as part of our net zero plan. So we'll help them find and create a new project. So through our assessment, we get a really good understanding of who are the big developers making these nature-based projects around the world. So we can find one that's good, that we have a high confidence will create a high quality project, and basically connect them with the right business to create new projects. And that, it's called origination piece, is a really important part of our goal to protect and restore at least 1% of the planet by 2030. It was 150 million hectares. So it's a really big area. So we need these really big projects to achieve that. So yeah, with our voluntary biodiversity credit, so it's the first in the UK. And what we've done is here we've got this compliance market where if you're building a new property development, as of legislation early this year, you now need to basically offset the biodiversity impacts by 110%. And you can do that on site, on the building, green walls, green roofs, or around the building. But typically you'll also need to do something nearby. And so a lot of landowners are now creating these, they're called BNG units for property developers. And it's essentially, it's an area of land, it's legally protected for 30 years, and there's a biodiversity recovery plan that's connected to the site. So what we've done is we've got this like UK government scheme here in the UK that's pretty innovative and pretty world leading. All we've done is we've taken that and we've split them into these BNG units into 9 square meters. So the long and short of it is a company can make a contribution to a local project that's biodiversity focused from £50 for 9 square meters over 30 years. So it's like a really affordable way for companies to start to make contributions to a project where they can go and walk and see and take their team to go and experience. And in the UK, where there's not a huge amount of carbon projects, I think this is going to hopefully be a great way for us to trigger the kind of the nature restoration movement here. Because since the 70s, the biodiversity here in the UK, the insect population has reduced 70% since the 1970s. So we've had a real decline here. And yeah, we've actually had our first transaction with a company called King. So they are the makers of Candy Crush. You've got the game on your phone. So yeah, they've been a client for a few years now, and yeah, really proud of them for being one of the first, showing some real leadership and being the first main supporter for these voluntary biodiversity credits. So we got some really exciting demand from some of our key customers. So this is over the next sort of 30 years, and you can see it shoots up at 2030 when those net zero commitments kick in, and then 2040. And we're really proud when we're now having screened all these projects around the world. We've got roughly 10 developers that are linked to all the highest scoring projects that we're building these really deep partnerships with. And they want to work with us, even though we're a new company, because they're like, look, through your assessment, you're acknowledging the fact we're doing stuff in the right way, and you're acknowledging all the details that we're doing things properly. So we've got a great pipeline of projects with these developers to meet that demand that's building. I just want to include a couple of examples of things that we do. So like, it's not just about net zero. Some of our clients, we use nature as a reward to drive engagement, to drive sales, to drive loyalty. And so one example of that is CaixaBank. So they're a Spanish bank. And what they did is they used trees as a reward to drive engagement in the app. And they connected to our API, and whenever people referred a friend to their banking app, it was called Imagine, the specific bank, or connect to their salary or reach milestones, they would reward them with trees. And we used our API to basically plant the trees, show the carbon, biodiversity data, the people data. And we did that at a user level. So you could see the specific impact of your 10 trees, but then we also showed the community level. So between everyone in the Imagine community, you planted X million trees, and this is the kind of the impact you've had together. And then another client, Innocent, we did a buy one, plant one. So every time we bought certain products around the UK, they supported a mangrove and kelp project. And that was a really successful initiative that we worked for them. And yeah, just really proud of the recognition that we've been receiving recently, including COP27 and we're Nature Tech winner at the World Economic Forum, which has been really fun. And yeah, really lucky. It wouldn't be what it is without our amazing team. And we are fully remote, spread across Europe and Africa and India. So we are taken a decision to not have any offices so we can be really open with our hiring. Had a 4-day work week for 3 years, which has been great. Absolutely loved. And yeah, we're all entrepreneurs, engineers, scientists, passionate about protecting and restoring the planet. And yeah, just finally to say, it's my LinkedIn code. So yeah, please do connect and thank you for listening. And I was going to suggest if we were going to have a question, one of the ideas I had was like, how can we accelerate funding to nature? But I'm really open to also have a question that you think would be, if there's anything more useful, happy to use that.
Amazing. No, I think we can use that question.